Come on, breathe, baby. God damn it, breathe. God damn it, you bitch! You never backed away from anything in your life! Now fight! 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 Right now! Do it! Fight, God damn it! Fight! 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 Fight!
Legendary warriors, the powers that created us now want us all extinguished. We must join forces, or else forever be their slaves. For today, in the name of freedom, we take the battle to them. Let's roll.
Here in moments.
The ultimate gayless spectacle.
Holy Mother of God on earth and in heaven at the exact same time.
You want a piece of me? You got it!
We are blessed to be joined tonight by Corinne Owens, the widow of U.S. Navy Special Operator, Senior Chief William Ryan Owens. Ryan died as he lived, a warrior and a hero, battling against terrorism and securing our nation.
He became President of the United States in that moment, period. There are a lot of people who have a lot of reason to be frustrated with him, to be fearful of him, to be mad at him. But that was one of the most extraordinary moments you have ever seen in American politics, period. And he did something extraordinary. And for people who have been hoping that he would become unifying, hoping that he might find some way to become presidential, they should be happy with that moment. For people who have been hoping that maybe he would remain a divisive cartoon, which he often finds a way to do, they should begin to become a little bit worried tonight. Because that thing you just saw him do, if he finds a way to do that over and over again, he's going to be there for 8 years. Now, there is a lot that he said in that speech that was counterfactual, that was not right, that I oppose and will oppose. But he did something tonight that you cannot take away from him. He became President of the United States.
Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. President Trump's speech to Congress, that is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. It was well received. 78% of those watching the speech felt it was positive, just 21% negative, according to a CNN Snap poll. Also, when asked if the president made you feel more optimistic or pessimistic, 69% said optimistic, just 28% pessimistic. Now, Snap polls like that are based mostly on emotion, and the sample was 33% Republican, 28% Democrat, 39% Independent. But there's no question that fair-minded people came away from the speech impressed, at least most of them. But of course, that didn't stop the anti-Trump brigade.
It will be a notable thing that the president spent a big portion of what was, in effect, a State of the Union trying to, tell the country what vicious, murdering criminals immigrants are.
He relished saying those words just to stick it to Islam, to make sure that they knew that they were all a danger to the United States.
What an idiot. I mean, we got to watch this idiot for, an hour and 9 minutes. He just says one hateful thing after the other. He's so embarrassing.
Interesting word, hateful. It's embarrassing, isn't it? When you hear something like that, it's embarrassing. Well, let me correct that. It's not embarrassing. It's sad. Summing up, President Trump helped himself greatly last night. His base applauded his presentation throughout. Independents broke his way. And he gained credibility among some of those who might have been doubtful. And that's a memo. Continuing now with our lead story, analyzing President Trump's speech in opposition to him. Before the speech was even given, Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi said this.
The president said about himself, he said nobody knew how complicated health care would be. He obviously didn't know that, but he also doesn't know what the budget is about.
Now, that criticism again coming from Mrs. Pelosi, who famously said this about Obamacare in 2010.
We have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
I love that. Joining us now from Denver, the governor of Colorado, John Hickenlooper. So, as a Democrat, how do you assess President Trump's speech last night?
Well, it was certainly a different tone than we've seen before, and I think a welcome tone in that sense that he really did seem to be including people. There wasn't the attacks on the media as being an enemy of the people. He really did seem like around job creation and even immigration, which he amplified today, but that it looked like he was reaching out to people that maybe he didn't agree with and encouraging them to kind of join him at the table and begin negotiating some of these issues. You know, I think if the president is going to honor the complexity of these issues and, you know, the core values that so many of us hold dear, I think we're ready to sit down and work on those issues.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it's best for the country if you do. But it's interesting because it sounds like you thought he gave a pretty good speech last night. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, I think the tone, well, again, there wasn't a lot of detail.
Not specifics,
but the tone was,
right.
Yeah, the tone was very different than anything we've seen. And I think that's, you know, welcome. I mean, the level of volatility that we've seen up until now, I mean, I don't see how it's sustainable. So, and hopefully this will mark the beginning of a new consistency that we can really get down to work on these issues, right?
Now, you just heard the vice president who was adamant that there's not going to be really any pathway to citizenship for illegal aliens who are here and have not been causing trouble while they're here. However, there are going to be crackdowns on sanctuary cities, Denver being one of them, the capital of Colorado. Now, are you fearful that you'll lose some federal money, and how will you rebut that if it indeed does happen?
Well, I don't think so. I think, you know, if somebody commits a crime in Denver and they don't have proper documentation, generally, and I know there have been some screw-ups on this, but generally that name goes immediately over to ICE. And
so you don't have a problem with cooperating with ICE as the governor of Washington State does, for example?
Well, if you're talking about violent criminals, absolutely. I think that's, you know, part of the whole immigration thing is the system is so challenging, and maybe this is the time that we can actually get Congress to, you know, find the compromises and, of course, securing the border. I mean, you know, countries come with borders. There's no question about that. But we also have to make sure that we get, you know, that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, that we, you know, that we have an ID system that works, but at the same time,
and the vice president
that a lot of these guys have
that.
jobs.
Finally, Jeff Sessions, new attorney general, not a fan of legalized marijuana. Roll the tape on that.
I, as you know, am dubious about marijuana. States, can pass whatever laws they choose, but I'm not sure we're going to be a better, healthier nation if we have marijuana being sold at every corner grocery store.
So he says, the Attorney General does, that federal law overrides state law, and he's not going to be nearly as liberal as the Attorney Generals under President Obama. Have you thought about that, and how do you react?
Well, certainly we've been thinking about it and trying to figure out what our choices are. You know, I opposed it. Right? I was openly against it, and, you know, 55 to 45, our voters put it into our Constitution. I took a solemn oath to support our Constitution, and so I'm in that funny position where I've got to try and make this work. And, you know, we've made a lot of progress. You got to admit the old system was a train wreck. So now we have anecdotal evidence, and I think soon numerical evidence that there are less drug dealers on the streets, and they don't care who they sell to.
Yeah,
right?
But you know what?
We didn't see a spike.
You know what did happen, though, interestingly enough, was that a flood of homeless people and poor people came into Colorado because now they have easy access to the intoxicants. And I don't know how that's impacting, but last time I was in Denver in September, and I used to work there, you might know that, at Channel 7 in Denver, I noticed it. I noticed it. I mean, downtown Denver, there's a lot of people that are just stoned morning till night because they can get this stuff. I don't know. I think that's what the Attorney General is talking about.
To be clear, I mean, Colorado, U.S. News and World Report came out on Monday. We have the #1 economy in the country. When you're growing that fast, you have all kinds of homelessness. Yeah, we had that long before we legalized marijuana. And every state that's got a growing economy right now, including Texas, has real challenges.
Shouldn't there be more jobs? If the economy's growing, there should be jobs. They shouldn't be homeless. Look, you know that. If you want a service job in Denver, you can get it like that.
But we don't have any evidence that this is the result of marijuana. There are a lot of other social issues that are around homelessness and addiction.
All right, Governor. Always a pleasure to talk with you. Thanks for taking the time.
Nice talking to you.
I felt sorry for the Democrats watching Trump. They're so grim, so sad, so constipated. I guess for them, it's like watching a band you hate cover a song that you love. After all, Trump's saying things they wanted to hear, but damn, it's from him. They're like a child who refuses to play with an awesome toy because it's a hand-me-down. Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Keith Ellison, look at them. They're like mice at a cat party. Terrified to move a muscle, even during the most moving passages, their faces as taut as a double-strung tennis racket. It was as if remaining still was an actual political stance. And for the Democratic Party, it is. Check out the odd response after Trump's speech. It was like a play put on by hostages.
I'm Steve Beshear. I was governor of Kentucky from 2007 to 2015. Now I'm a private citizen. I'm here in Lexington, Kentucky, some 400 miles from Washington, at a diner with some neighbors, Democrats and Republicans, where we just watched the president's address. I'm a proud Democrat, but first and foremost, I'm a proud Republican and Democrat and mostly American.
Well, that was about as staged as an open casket. The spectators as stiff as a wax museum, resembling a diorama of Trump's America. They pick an old white guy as the lead. No Cory Booker, no Kamala Harris, no what's her name. Talk about pandering, yet it felt like a slow day at the DMV. So what were they trying to say to America? That we forgot you? That we embraced identity and division, and now we want you back? Too late. For 8 years, you embraced soaring rhetoric untethered to substance. So Trump went another way. Blunt and direct, he replaced emotive drama with relatable ideas. It was as scary to the Democrats as it was convincing to everyone else. Maybe that explains their frozen fear. The speech worked, and they knew it.
Don Leming over at the Counterfeit News Network was not impressed with President Trump's speech to Congress last night and equated it as if it were written by a college student who used big words that Trump just didn't understand. At least his reaction wasn't as bad as Skeletor's. I mean, just look at her sitting there. Can't even applaud after Trump announced that tens of thousands of jobs are already returning to our country. Tell us how terrible this speech was, Leming, since we know that President Trump can't do anything right.
To me, it sounds like a speech that was written for someone that he was reciting, and there were some big words and big phrases that I don't think that he actually connected to if you just listen to the speech.
It didn't sound like his voice.
It sounded like it didn't sound like his voice, because if you look at when he speaks extemporaneously, you learn a lot about people. The way President Obama spoke extemporaneously was very similar to the way he gave speeches.
Oh, no, it's not. We'll get back to that in a moment.
The way President Trump speaks extemporaneously is not the same as what he said tonight. It sounded to me, and this is just, I mean, I thought he sounded very presidential. This was a speech written by a college student for someone else, trying to use big words to impress that the person who was reciting it did not know the meaning of the words.
Sorry, Lemonhead, but the president actually used words that were too big for liberals to understand. Words like this.
Our obligation is to serve, protect, and defend the citizens of the United States. We are also taking strong measures to protect our nation from radical Islamic terrorism.
Look at all the Democrats on the left. They're not even applauding. They're just like, what? Huh? Radical Islamic what? Those words got such a positive response from Republicans because, as you may know, President Obama, being raised a Muslim over in Indonesia, refused to mention the words radical Islamic terrorism. And as far as Don Leming saying that Trump sounds differently when he's speaking off the top of his head or extemporaneously versus when he's reading off of a teleprompter, which obviously he is during these more formal speeches, no kidding! Almost everybody who reads off of a teleprompter sounds dramatically different than if they were just speaking off the top of their head, even if the words that they're reading, they wrote themselves. And it's one thing to be reading a teleprompter for a news camera, where the teleprompter is consisting of a see-through pane of glass, so you're looking right at the camera. It's a totally different thing when there are two teleprompters and you're in a public speech and you have to look from teleprompter to teleprompter and try to react to the crowds and give them eye contact, etc., etc. It's a skill, and not everybody has it. A skill that everybody knows President Obama had. Reading a teleprompter was pretty much Obama's only skill. In fact, take a look at some of these clips of President Obama when he didn't have his teleprompter to tell him what to say.
But that was true for the.
Let's get back to the tax the rich.
I'm not so worried about the FCC. So point number one.
I understand, but which is fine. Well, wait, hold on a second. Remember, but let me just speak more generally.
But wait a minute, Don, didn't you say that Obama sounded exactly the same when he was on a teleprompter and when he was speaking extemporaneously?
The way President Obama spoke extemporaneously was very similar to the way he gave speeches.
Oh, really, Don? Very similar. Then how do you explain this?
I guess. Hold on a second, everybody. I want everybody to be respectful. That's why we're having.
I don't think that. Wait, Major.
Even the Counterfeit News Network's Van Jones, who blamed racist white people for the, quote, white lash on election night, which he said was the reason that Trump won, admitted that President Trump's speech was fantastic and, in fact, said this.
He became president of the United States in that moment. Period. There are a lot of people who have a lot of reason to be frustrated with him, to be fearful of him, to be mad at him. But that was one of the most extraordinary moments you have ever seen in American politics, period.
So extraordinary that, for a few minutes at least, even the Counterfeit News Network set aside their bias and ran the headline President Trump as the top story on CNN.com, something that triggered Michael Moore, saying that thing that happens when the press is bullied and threatened. You just keep doing what you're doing, Democrats, because every day we're just bringing more and more people over to the right. From lifelong Union Democrats to African Americans in the inner cities to Latinos, you name it, they're finally seeing the light and they're getting off the Democrat plantation.
That widow.
That is so hateful.
You know, Mary Catherine Ham, former colleague over here, another network, who lost her husband. She's widowed. So it was a moment that she really respected. She didn't find any fault in it at all. She wasn't concerned about why it was in the joint session speech. She said his name, Ryan Owens' name, is now etched in stone forever, as well as the way Donald Trump pointed. And she said that was far above any other issues that they would have. That Geraldo pointed out, why was it even discussed at the
See, my theory is that critical mass has been reached by the far left in this country, and that they're doing damage to their own legacy and to the Democratic Party at a rate I've never seen in my lifetime. I've never seen an ideology now collapse the way it has collapsed in the last, 6 months. And this is like the worst. You know, because this woman was obviously so overwhelmed with emotion of love for her husband. Remember, she has 3 young children at home. 3, all right? And the President of the United States calls her to come into this speech to honor her slain husband. And you have people, hateful people, criticizing this. Even if you don't like it, keep quiet.
I agree that the left is obsessing about Donald Trump in a way that I think is absolutely unsavory.
Horrendous.
It is absolutely beyond the pale, and I believe they have to be busted on it. And even, God bless CNN. They do a great job, but they're now obsessing about him in a way that I think it demeans that great network. They should just lay off. I mean, Kellyanne Conway puts her feet on the couch and they talk about it for 3 days. Forget about it.
Taya Kyle joins me now, widow of Navy SEAL Chris Kyle and a Fox News contributor. Taya, good evening to you. your reaction.
Hi, good evening.
Good to have you here. What do you think about what Michael Moore had to say?
Hey, Martha. You know, man, I just listening to those clips, I have this myriad of emotions going through me. I can tell you that when I hear the applause and I hear the words being spoken about Ryan, I'm not thinking about politics in the slightest. What I'm thinking is that my heart is pounding and I have chills because it's truth. Because this is a silent professional and his intensely private family who gave everything. They never wanted recognition. And if somebody now that he is gone wants to get up and thank him for his sacrifice, for his service, to tell the world his name, to tell the world he's out there serving, then God bless him. And you know what? For his beautiful wife to get up there, she's so private, for her to get up there and say, I'm going to do this because I love my husband and because he's worthy of this praise. He deserves this recognition. And for once, he doesn't have to be the silent person. For her to stand up and receive that for him is beautiful. You ask about my feelings on what Michael Moore said. It makes me sick to my stomach. It makes me angry because he's saying two things when he says that to me, that A, she's a fool and doesn't know she's being used, and that's ridiculous. It couldn't be farther from the truth. And it's also saying that this wasn't warranted and that in some way this has to always be political. I get the ideas that it would be nice to say everything is a political ploy. It totally negates, though, the meaning behind this. And the meaning of it, for all the people watching who cried with her, is that some valiant people are out there fighting, not for Republicans, not for Democrats. They're fighting for this country, and God bless them for doing it.
Yeah. It struck me so strongly, and you share so much with Corinne, so you understand how she feels having lost her husband as well. But when he said, this poor woman, I thought to myself, there's nothing poor about her. She's incredibly strong, and she is standing up there, you could see her breathing through, just trying not to cry, and taking in that moment for him, for her husband. And for Michael Moore to judge her and basically suggest that she didn't understand that she's a pawn in this game, I find it so reprehensible. What would you say to Corinne about that? Like, what would you say to her?
Oh, I just feel like I know her already. We have a lot of friends in common, and I understand that intensely private feeling, and I understand taking the courage to get out and say, you know what, this is not about me, and it's not about my need for privacy. What this is about is my husband, who she's always going to love. You can see her looking up to the skies. I can't tell you how much I can relate to that because she's looking for him. She's saying, this is not about me, babe. This is about you. And I am proud of you, and you deserve recognition even though you never wanted it. I get what she's saying, and I could not agree with you more. And I think that, a lot of people at home watching feel the same way, that he's a hero and she is strong. Yeah, I mean, she is anything but a poor woman or a poor widow. She has more strength in her little finger than most people would have in their lifetime. She's lived a life where she had to be strong, and this is another step in her journey of being stronger than she wants to be.
As usual, you nailed it in every way. Taya Kyle, thank you for being here tonight and expressing your feelings about this better than anybody could. Thank you, Taya. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me. Good to see you, too. Thanks.
We are blessed to be joined tonight by Corinne Owens, the widow of U.S. Navy Special Operator, Senior Chief William Ryan Owens. Ryan was a part of a highly successful raid that generated large amounts of vital intelligence that will lead to many more victories in the future against our enemy. Ryan's legacy is etched into eternity. Thank you.
Wow, what a moment from last night. President Trump, during last night's address, honoring the widow of fallen Navy SEAL Ryan Owens. He was killed last month during a raid in Yemen, but loudmouth liberals stooped to what is a new low after that very touching and real moment. Listen and watch this.
I wish she hadn't allowed herself to be used as his prop like that.
That's why she's there. Yeah, as a sort of a FU to the people who are criticizing him for this. What's he thinking about? My ratings.
And how many?
Very good. Record applause. Record. What is it? I'm going to get an Emmy for this. Most applause for a dead soldier on my watch. I mean, this is the sickness of this man.
Prop, dead soldier. Wow. And what was said on Twitter was even more vicious. Here with reaction is the co-host of The Five, Bob Beckel, and the host of Tommy on The Blaze. That's Tommy Lahren is with us. You're not going to defend that. I've known you for years.
No. I thought it was. I felt so badly for that woman. You know?
I wanted to cry.
And it was. It's times like that when I think you could argue about the father disagrees with the mission and all the rest. It doesn't matter. The guy was an American hero, and he went in and he died. And at a minimum, the idea of being able to stand up for 5 minutes and applaud his widow seems to me to be perfectly legitimate.
But, Tommy, all these liberals, snowflake, lunatics, that was so mean, cruel, and heartless to say these things. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening. This guy died. These men and women fight, bleed, and die, so they have the right to be ignorant and stupid. And that lack of appreciation, I think, bothered me the most in their comments.
Well, how condescending. That's what I first thought when I hear them saying that she's a political prop. That's why she's there for Trump's ratings. No. To talk down to her like that, to make her seem as if she's an infant, that she doesn't know what she's there for. Clearly, they could learn a thing or two from Karen Owens. And I would encourage all the women out there that are holding up their F Trump signs and they're marching in their little pink hats. I would encourage them to look at someone like Karen Owens and see what a real woman is and what real sacrifice looks like, because I don't think they get it yet.
My heart goes out to her. What a tough thing that anybody has to go through. Let me play Rosie O'Donnell. And if this represents Bob Beckel's party, I think they're doomed. We'll get Bob's reaction to this.
Yeah.
Even if our major media companies will not call him a liar, we will. He lies. He lies. He lies. He lies. To Donald Trump and his pathetic band of white, privileged, criminal businessmen, I would like to say to him, niet, sir, niet, niet, niet. No, we won't. We've seen what you have done, sir. We have seen your connections with Russia. The game is over.
So that's your part. That's Rosie Marr. Wait a minute. Rosie Marr Moore, Ashley Judd, Madonna. Wait a minute. And your liberal friends that sat on their hands last night, that is your party. It's run by the loony left.
Can you imagine waking up next to her every day?
No. No, not exactly.
Tommy, let me explain something to you. I've been around. I was around for the Lincoln second inaugural. And you're...
For the Lincoln second inaugural?
Yeah, I've been around.
You've been around a little bit?
But you know something? You make the same mistake that Hannity makes, which is you pick out 2 or 3 liberals and you make us all that way. And it's just unfair, uncouth, and sad. And I think a good idea, just to, if I can give you a little bit of advice, I've been at this business a long time. If I were you, I'd be a little careful about generalizing about people.
Well, I'm looking at Bob. I'm looking at the tape. You know what's interesting, Tommy?
Yeah, but you had tape of 4 things.
Tommy, what's interesting is the Democrats that sat on their hands when the president's talking about jobs last night and doing things that everybody should agree on, I think they are responding and reacting to the loudest voice in their party. They're afraid of those people. They own those people in the chamber last night on the Democratic side, is my contention.
More scares the hell out of me, I can tell you that.
Sean, what they're doing is they're reminding those Democrats that voted for Donald Trump, that were kind of in between, didn't know which way to go. They're reminding them exactly why they cast their vote for Donald Trump. And them sitting on their hands while President Trump is talking about American jobs and infrastructure, the fact that they're sitting there and the fact that they're groaning when he talks about securing our borders. It just goes to show why he is the president of the United States and their party lost.
Can I just say one thing? At the end of, he gave a good speech, and of course expectations being what they were. But at the end, he said, let's all get together and unify. This is from the man who for 18 months ripped this country apart. Now, he picked out enemies. He picked out all kinds of enemies. He was cruel. And
you guys, and people on your side call him a Nazi and Hitler and a fascist.
I certainly did. You say our side. Would you stop doing that? You want to be...
That is your side.
You want to be
your
peeps with Alex Rose or whatever that idiot's name is?
Alex Rose? Who's Alex Rose? Can I just say something?
That fat slob who does the...
We talking about Michael Morgan?
No. That guy that Trump's from, the radio guy.
All right, Tommy, we'll give you the last word.
I think it's a great day to be an American. I think that was one of the best speeches I've heard. I'm very proud that, yes, and the left is going to hate this. The left in its entirety is probably going to hate this. But guess what? That is our president, and I couldn't be happier.
Well, you got a lot more speeches in front of you, and you'll hear a lot more.
All right. Thank you both.
Moments on the president's speech that you'll ever see, actually. A tribute to a widow of a fallen Navy SEAL.
But don't tell that to one former Clinton volunteer who also was an Obama volunteer who tweeted afterwards, "Sorry, Owen's wife, you're not helping yourself or your husband's memory by standing there and clapping like an idiot. Trump just used you," and he called her an idiot.
That worker, fired after a former Navy SEAL wrote his boss at the company called Liberty Advisor Group in Chicago, and the Navy SEAL wrote this in the letter. He said, he has, in the basest terms, degraded the memory of one of my fallen Navy SEAL brothers by insulting his wife on a public platform. Either Mr. Dan Grillo is completely devoid of humanity, or he is willing to suppress the natural instinct of compassion for a widow for political gain and personal satisfaction. Dan Grillo has brought shame upon himself, and by remaining in your employment, your company, and you.
That former Navy SEAL, Derek Van Orden, rejoins our show, but for the first time talking about this. Derek, how did you just stumble onto this tweet, and why did you feel compelled to attack it?
Well, I have a group of friends that I speak to regularly, active duty and retired Navy SEALs, and this instantly popped up on our little network. And some things need to be addressed directly and immediately, and this was beyond the pale. You do not insult our widows and expect to get away with it. It's just not going to happen.
So what was your reaction?
Wholly inappropriate.
And what was your reaction when
I thought it was a joke initially.
Yeah, what was your reaction when you found out he was fired?
I thought it was fantastic, and I wrote back to the CEO of the company and thanked him and said that I stand corrected, that you are a man of honor, and that you did not bring shame upon yourself or your company. That's how real people have discussions. If we bring up an issue and it's addressed immediately like the CEO did, he should be called out for doing what is good.
Sure.
It's fantastic.
Derek, what did you, when you were listening
when
you were listening to the president on Tuesday night speak before the joint session of Congress, and he saluted the widow in the box with Mrs. Trump, what did you think about the fact that he brought her up? Because some on the political left have said, well, look, the president was using her as a prop.
Right. Okay, check this out. I want to say this directly to the President of the United States. Mr. President, by the fact that you brought Karen up there to be a symbol for all of our Gold Star widows, the widowers that are out there, the mothers, sisters, and brothers, was an incredibly classy thing to do. She's a strong woman that has displayed grace in the presence of hurt. So, Mr. President, again, I'm a private citizen now, but you earned my respect and the respect of my fellow Navy SEALs by doing this. And if you need anything, you give me a ring. Thank you for that.
Right. And you remember, you could also see Derek is also one of the stars of Acts of Valor, the DVD that's out. Right. Here's the answer from the Liberty Advisor Group to you. Regardless of whether the comments in the tweet were intended to cause the hurt and anger that they ultimately generated, they were unacceptable to us, and the individual who issued the tweet is no longer, the person who issued the tweet is no longer affiliated with Liberty, so he's gone. So you found out who he was. You offered to drive over there and explain why he shouldn't have done that, and then he deleted his profile and came up with another profile, and you found that.
Yes. Well, cowards are often crafty folks. So what this guy Grillo did, again, is completely unacceptable, and it will not be tolerated by myself or my fellow Navy SEALs. It didn't matter that Karen is a Navy SEAL widow. She's a widow of any service member that was killed in action defending the country and defending our freedoms. We need to stand up for them. We owe them a debt of gratitude that doesn't end with the death of their spouse, either their husband or their wife. That is a lifelong commitment, and if we can do anything to assuage their grief, then we should do that as a nation. That's exactly what the President of the United States was attempting to do, and he did incredibly successfully at this joint session of Congress. To degrade the effort that he made to bring glory to these people, my fellow Navy SEALs and the other service members that have been killed in action defending our freedoms, to try to degrade that is disgraceful. There's no excuse for it.
The president's political enemies are saying, well, that was not a good mission. We didn't get enough out of it. How dare he do this mission? What perspective should we have when we are analyzing this mission?
We should have the perspective of American citizens that are grateful that there are men and women that are willing to go into harm's way to defend us. It should start and stop there. Rosie O'Donnell is probably a wonderful person, but she is not a military analyst of any renown. She is not. And when we're talking about Michael Moore and Bill Maher and those cats saying that she was used as a prop, I fully expect it out of those guys. They're agitators. In the parlance of unconventional warfare, we would call them agent provocateurs. I expected that out of them. I also expect someday to see Bill Maher riding on Michael Moore's back fighting Mad Max in the Thunderdome. Those are the types of acts I expect out of those cats. I get it, but for an average citizen like Mr. Grillo is, to think that it is even remotely acceptable to insult the widow of a fallen service member speaks volumes about the character of these individuals.
It does indeed. All right, Derek Van Orden, former Navy SEAL, who wrote the letter and got the guy fired. Derek, thank you very much for joining.
And now this is Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer talking about the controversy surrounding the Attorney General. Let's listen in.
Sessions needs to recuse himself from any investigation into contacts between the president and his associates on the campaign and transition and Russia. For weeks, I made clear that I believe Attorney General Sessions' close relationship with the Trump campaign requires that he recuse himself from the executive branch investigation into ties between the Trump campaign and Russia. It's a matter of Department of Justice guidelines that I've read to you several times that are very clear. The guidelines are clear as day, yet Attorney General Sessions has demurred. The information reported last night makes it clear beyond the shadow of a doubt that Attorney General Sessions cannot possibly lead an investigation into Russian interference in our elections or come anywhere near it. With these revelations, he may very well become the subject of it. It would be of Alice in Wonderland quality if this administration were to sanction him to investigate himself. Recusal should have been given, but this goes beyond that. He had weeks, Attorney General Sessions had weeks to correct the record that he made before the Judiciary Committee, but he let the record stand. There cannot be even the scintilla of doubt about the impartiality and fairness of the Attorney General, the top law enforcement official of the land. After this, it's clear Attorney General Sessions does not meet that test. Because the Department of Justice should be above reproach for the good of the country, Attorney General Sessions should resign. But whatever one's views are on resignation, the most important thing we must do is ensure the integrity of the investigation. Has it already been compromised? What can we do to ensure it moves forward in a way that ultimately leads to the unvarnished truth? To that end, I am calling on three things. To that end, I am calling for three things today. First, the Justice Department must immediately appoint a special prosecutor. Given that Attorney General Sessions' impartiality is compromised, that responsibility will fall to the acting Deputy Attorney General, Dana Boente, who is a career civil servant originally appointed U.S. Attorney by President Obama. It is incumbent upon the acting Deputy Attorney General to select as special prosecutor an individual who is beyond reproach, completely impartial, without any significant ties to either political party. The choice for special prosecutor will be scrutinized. Even the hint of partiality in that choice, even the hint that this person will not be able to get to the bottom of these troubling questions would be disqualifying. The prosecutor must be of great experience and unimpeachable impartiality. Now, this is not just common sense. This is what the Justice Department regulations require. They say that a special counsel should be appointed when a standard investigation, quote, these are the Justice Department's words, when a standard investigation would, quote, present a conflict of interest for the department or other extraordinary circumstances, and it would be in the public interest to appoint an outside special counsel. The regulations also require that a special counsel be a lawyer with a reputation for integrity and impartial decision-making. There cannot even be the shred of a connection between the Attorney General, Mr. Sessions, and this Department of Justice investigation into the events of 2016. Second,
well, I have not met with any Russians at any time to discuss any political campaign, and those remarks are unbelievable to me and are false, and I don't have anything else to say about that.
What about
so
the
thank
request
you.
to recuse yourself from your agency's probe of the...
Well, I've said that whenever it's appropriate, I will recuse myself. There's no doubt about that.
Attorney General Sessions firing back at Democrats calling him to recuse himself or to resign over allegations he met twice with Russian officials during the campaign.
House Majority Leader Congressman Kevin McCarthy now calling on Attorney General Jeff Sessions to recuse himself, and he joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
We're great. Thank you. Why are you calling on him to recuse himself?
I'm not calling on him to recuse himself. I was asked on Morning Joe if he needs to recuse himself as going forward. And as you just heard, Attorney General Sessions said he would recuse himself going forward appropriate. And that's all my answer was. So it's amazing how people spin things so quickly.
Well, I'm so glad you decided to join us.
I'm sorry, I asked it the wrong way, but I don't watch Morning Joe. I was told that. That's what the mainstream media is reporting, but apparently you have told us otherwise.
Right. Leader, can you tell me where do you stand with this? As it comes out today, there were two meetings, according to Washington Post reports. There were two meetings between Senator Sessions, one at the RNC, at an event that he was speaking at, and along with other ambassadors, and one-on-one in his office. What do you think about this story?
Look, I'm just hearing about this story. It's amazing how the story comes out right after a great speech by this president and the timing. Look, in his role as senator, he's going to meet with a lot of ambassadors. That's his job. He was not working for the campaign at any given time. I think he just has to clarify, because he was asked a question, did he meet on behalf of the campaign? And he was answering it in that way when you looked at that. No, I did not have any meetings of campaign. And one happened to be, they say, at a convention. And as you know, ambassadors go to both parties' conventions. They ask as many members as possible to come by and say hi. I can't tell you which ambassadors I met in those conventions or walking out of a room who shook my hand. It was not a meeting associated with the campaign. And I think just clarification to not have this blowout of a proportion of what this is.
Wasn't one of those meetings, though, a face-to-face with the same ambassador, the Russian ambassador that General Flynn met with?
Talk to. If that's the case, I think the Attorney General just needs to clarify to the American people what that was. And as a U.S. Senator, his role is to meet with ambassadors as well.
Absolutely.
So just clarify that and go forward.
Sure. Does it trouble you, Mr. McCarthy, that this looks like another instance where this is supposed to be top secret stuff? I mean, it sounds like it's leaking from the intel community, but, you know, there's a story out there that in the final days of the Barack Obama administration, people in the intel community knew about, the ties to Russia and stuff like that. And so they started spreading it everywhere to do as much damage to President Trump and the incoming administration as possible. And that could be why we're here today talking about this.
It seems like a lot of politics, and when you read into these stories, there's another story out there saying the Obama administration has been floating so many stories out there. I think it's time to come together as Americans. We have big problems, from health care to tax reform to infrastructure, and that's what I was talking to the president yesterday at lunch. We're trying to move forward, and I think we should put people before politics and really come together as one nation.
And I know you're
Shannon, there's another new report this morning saying the Obama White House may be driving a lot of the news on Russia. New York Times, long report this morning in the final days of the Obama term, saying that officials scramble to leave a trail for investigators that relate to Russian hacking. Now, why would that be? Rich Lowry, editor of National Review and a Fox News contributor, with me now to examine this, and good morning to you. When you read that story and the details in there, what is the sense among Trump supporters that they take from this report?
Well, it's going to increase the sense among Trump supporters that this was a partisan operation to delegitimize his election, and all sorts of rules were bent in order to create minefields for Trump coming into office. And it's from this kind of loose group of unnamed shadowy officials that the operation to take down Michael Flynn came from.
Overall, the impression the reporting in the New York Times gives you is that the Obama team had evidence, and they wanted to make sure as many people in Washington saw it as possible before they were out of power, essentially, and they wanted to preserve the record.
Right.
Now, why would that be?
So the Obama folks will tell you we had a presidential candidate who won an election that the Russians had hacked and tried to influence, and was constantly denying that the Russians had done this, and was saying incredibly friendly things about Vladimir Putin. So they found all that very alarming, and they worried that information would be ignored or perhaps even destroyed. Now, to me, one takeaway I have from this is if all this intelligence was disseminated as widely as this story suggests, if there was really a smoking gun, and a smoking gun in this context is like direct coordination between Trump inner circle and Russian intelligence on the hacking, we would probably know about it. And what we have at the moment is a lot of smoke, but nothing that's that explosive.
So we went back this morning, Rich, to find out when President Obama talked about either the Russian hacking or the implication that Trump campaign officials were involved with the Russians. It wasn't hard to find. November 17th, Angela Merkel, December 12th, December 16th, twice on December 16th, another time on January 8th. That's just what we found today. In one form or another, he referred to the Russian hacking or the Trump campaign team in these comments. So you get the idea that they were trying to plant this seed.
Right.
Now, can you prove that, or is that just the suggestion that comes
Well, we can all agree that that's the fact pattern. The Obama people will say, as was reported in this New York Times story, as more and more intelligence came in, we were more and more alarmed, and we more and more wanted to get the word out to the public. The Trump folks will say, oh, you know what happened and what changed? They lost an election. And they were outraged that they lost an election, and they wanted to undermine the legitimacy of the incoming president.
New details on the Obama administration's alleged efforts to set up a future investigation of the Trump administration. It's breaking this morning. Welcome to a brand new hour of America's Newsroom, where we're keeping you up to date. I'm Shannon Breeden in for Martha McCallum.
And I'm Bill Hemmer. Good morning. Morning to you, Shannon. An intriguing bit of reporting here now. The New York Times reports that officials in the Obama White House raced during their final days in office to preserve information on any possible communications between Russia and associates with then candidate Donald Trump and his team, and then ensure that as many people in Washington saw it as possible. Now, Catherine Herridge, following that now, our chief intelligence correspondent live in Washington. Catherine, good morning to you. So what is the latest now on this connection? Let's start there.
Well, thank you, Bill, and good morning. A former intelligence official confirmed to Fox News that the outgoing Obama administration was determined not to let the Russia issue die, and to that end, intelligence about Moscow's interference in the U.S. election was circulated broadly. This intelligence assessment, released in December by the Director of National Intelligence, was highly unusual because intelligence assessments are typically shared privately. Meantime, the White House is now confirming that at the request of the Senate Intelligence Committee, the White House counsel's office sent a memo to staff on on Tuesday, instructing them to preserve any and all materials that may be related to Russian interference in the U.S. election or communication with Russian officials. The administration's position is that FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe and CIA Director Mike Pompeo both told the White House that there's no evidence to back up reporting that there were contacts between Trump campaign officials and people connected to Russian intelligence. Bill.
So, Catherine, Democrats now accusing the AG of lying about his Russia contacts during confirmation hearings. What was said and what's the explanation now?
Well, let's listen to that section of the confirmation hearing with a question coming from Democratic Senator Al Franken.
And if there is any evidence that anyone affiliated with the Trump campaign communicated with the Russian government in the course of this campaign, what will you do?
I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, and I did not have communications with the Russians, and I'm unable to comment on it.
The Attorney General now acknowledges that he had contact with the Russian ambassador twice, insisting that this was a routine part of his job on the Senate Armed Services Committee and that the contact was not connected to the Trump campaign. This morning, Attorney General Sessions explained what happened.
Well, I have not met with any Russians at any time to discuss any political campaign, and those remarks are unbelievable to me and are false, and I don't have anything else to say about that.
What about
so
the call to recuse yourself from your agency's probe of the...
Well, I've said that whenever it's appropriate, I will recuse myself. There's no doubt about that.
The White House issuing a statement saying that the Democrats are pushing these stories to undercut the president's successful address to Congress. Bill.
Okay, Catherine, thank you for that.
You're
Reporting
welcome.
from Washington.
Fox News Radio. I'm Dave Anthony. It's all about Jeff Sessions. Today in Washington, House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi and other Democrats calling on the Attorney General to resign for what he did not disclose at his confirmation hearing. Fox's John Decker live at the White House.
The Republican chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Jason Chaffetz, is now calling on Attorney General Sessions to recuse himself from any DOJ investigation involving alleged Trump campaign contacts with Russian officials. And Sessions told NBC he's not opposed to that.
Well, I've said that whenever it's appropriate, I will recuse myself. There's no doubt about that.
Sessions denies he misled Congress when he testified under oath that he never met with Russian officials during the presidential campaign to discuss political matters. The DOJ confirmed today that Sessions spoke twice last year with Russia's U.S. ambassador. Dave?
John, the Senate's about to vote on another of President Trump's cabinet nominees, a man he ran against. Dr. Ben Carson expected to be confirmed as Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Reuters reports Al-Qaeda has confirmed the death of one of its senior leaders in Syria. A U.S. intelligence official says he was taken out by a CIA drone-fired missile while riding in a car Sunday. The U.S. is back on the attack in Yemen.
For the first time since a Navy SEAL was killed last month in Yemen, U.S. officials say the military launched a series of airstrikes across 3 provinces against al-Qaeda militants.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson at the Pentagon. The 2 accountants blamed for the Best Picture chaos will never work at the Oscars again. That from the Academy Awards president.
PwC accountant Brian Cullinan, one of the 2 accountants responsible for the winner's envelopes at Sunday's Oscar show, tweeted a picture of Emma Stone from backstage minutes before handing presenters Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway the wrong envelope for Best Picture.
Fox's Jacqueline Carl, and that Oscar would have gone to Moonlight if the envelope wasn't wrong and the La La Land producers were on stage accepting when they had to hand the Oscar over. Fox News Radio, fair and balanced. When President Trump woke up, he tweeted that the stock market has had $3.2 trillion in gains since the election, but there is a bit of a decline this morning as there's one stock in focus. Fox Business Network's Nicole Petalides live on Wall Street.
No doubt. So the market's holding the 21,000 mark. We're down just 7 points, so that rally is still holding strong. The stock in focus is Snapchat parent Snap, which is valued at $24 billion after its IPO pricing of $17 a share. There's a huge crowd around the post right now, and the traders are telling me it is looking above that $20 mark. The Dow right now is down 11 points. The NASDAQ down 12, S&P 500 down 5. We are seeing movers in the areas of for sectors as far as utilities are doing great and energy is under pressure. Dave.
Thank you, Nicole. There is news out on the economy. First-time jobless claims fell last week to the lowest level in nearly 44 years, down to 223,000. This weekly jobless claim number is coming below 300,000 for 2 straight years. That's the longest such streak since 1970. Baylor University's football team could be flagged by law enforcement, being put under a deeper investigation.
The Texas Rangers are looking into how Baylor administrators handled reports of sexual and physical assault committed by members of the football team. A group of state lawmakers have been calling on the Rangers to get involved. The university is facing several lawsuits from women who accuse the school of ignoring or mishandling their reports of assault for years. An internal investigation found at least 17 women reported being sexually assaulted by 19 football players in recent years, but one lawsuit puts the number at over 50 women. Tom Rigotti, Fox News.
Price of oil is down $1, back around $53 a barrel. Gas is up a penny. AAA's average for regular now over $2.31 a gallon. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News Radio.
This poem is for the woman I love. I knew not what love was till you awoke within my heart. We are now together forever, never shall we part. I will track where you are, I'll decide whom you see. Remember, sweetheart, you belong only to me. So do what I say and don't do anything dumb, or I may have to hit you until you are numb. If you tell another soul, well, that will just make me mad, 'cause I tolerate you, and for that you should be glad. There's one more feeling I must express to you, honey. Don't ever, ever let me catch you touching my money.
Some relationships are not as they appear. That's because domestic abuse is often hidden. Join the Women's Center and Shelter in the effort to end abuse early on and help us provide emergency sanctuary to those who most need your protection. To donate, visit the Women's Center and Shelter at wcscanhelp.org.
El Jazz, Mellow, Mellis, let's go. We do it for you. You know what I'm saying? I think sometimes as artists, we forget to thank those out there. Thank you for all the sales. Thanks for going out, copping the CDs, coming to the shows, posting comments and blogs. Hip hop, y'all my true fans. I consider y'all true fans. Yeah, I'm doing it for you, man. You keep my rap style colorful like Toucan. Sam, I love the way I do this. Damn, can't no other genre make me feel the same way you can. If you can, name one. You think who can? God's gift is so authentic. I got to keep it artistic, even for kids that's autistic. Y'all give us the privilege to recall lyrics. Listen closely, it's all wisdom. Yeah. Most people tend to think it's just all rhythm, 'cause our skin tone is the same as malt liquors. I'm just speaking through the way I'm allowed, so when y'all playing it loud, you can say that I'm proud. So everybody that supported us and down for the cause and been around through this all, you at least deserve a round of applause. We need to put our hands up for them.
I'm taking this microphone and I'm singing these verses for you. Our music travels the world, we're gonna keep on doing it for you. I'm gonna let the sun come in and I'm doing it for you. For you. Yeah.
Let me talk about a revolution. Future's blue, no hope for a solution. We must lean towards the radical. Drop what you're doing and seek the sabbatical. It's unlikely, mathematical equation. Keeping it raw to the core. Time to explore, but my name's not Dora. Knowing that my strength all comes from Jehovah. Feel the changeover, totally seamless. Doing it for you, Google it and stream this over the internet. Clubs in your block party, volumes at 10. Let the vibe blend, so you can fully appreciate what we do to make your speakers shake. It's all about the love for the music. Now you're getting into it.
I'm taking this microphone and I'm singing these verses for you. Our music travels the world, we're gonna keep on doing it for you. I'm gonna let the sun come in and I'm doing it for you. For you.
True, we do this for a small profit. Sometimes because they get up in our small pockets, but we ain't false profits. I sincerely appreciate those emotions y'all helped us alleviate. Best believe we straight, that's why our CDs make y'all feel so good. It's cause you see we take our time with this, so when they release hate, then they falling behind at least 3 weeks late. Come on.
Now you know what I've been put on this earth for. Make sure you're clapping for more. For that real good, feel good music, taking over for those who just plain blew it. That mistake won't be made again. Melodic, Nellis setting the trend. Being humble settles the score. We'll keep doing it for you and yours. I'm taking this microphone and I'm singing these verses for you. Our music travels the world, we're gonna keep on doing it for you. I'm gonna let the sun come in and I'm doing it for you. For you. Oh, yeah. I'm taking this microphone and I'm singing these verses for you. Our music travels the world, we're gonna keep on doing it for you. I'm gonna let the sun come in